Hey guys, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the Daily Show where we give you all the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us as always is John Campia.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on planet Earth, coming to you from right here at the Collider Video Studios here in Burbank, California. It is the last show before the Christmas break. It's going to be a little bit more casual around here today.
Also here, John Schnepp.
What's up? It's very casual.
Also here, Christian Harloff.
They're right.
Yes! So, we hope you guys are all ready for your Christmas holidays and your Christmas break. I know I am. We do have a few things we're going to talk about here today, but since it's the last day, we're going to take mostly just your live Twitter questions today. So listen, if you've got a question, you want to get it on live, and you're watching us live right now, you can start tweeting tweeting in your questions to @ColliderVideo. Just start tweeting them in. We got a few things we're going to go over here. First, get all that out of the way, and then we will get to your live Twitter questions. And the first thing we're going to talk about today, since it is indeed Wednesday, it is time for Rewind, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. Rewind is what we affectionately refer to as the Feeling Old segment, because we celebrate those movies turning 10 years old and turning 20 years old. Turning 10 years old this week are Cheaper by the Dozen 2, not the original, Fun with Dick and Jane, The Ringer, Rumor Has It, and Wolf Creek. Celebrating their 20th anniversaries this week are the famous animated classic Balto. No, I've never heard of it.
You never heard of Balto?
Cutthroat Island.
Ooh.
Dracula Dead and Loving It Part 2. Grumpier Old Men. Sudden Death. And Waiting to Exhale. So these are the films celebrating their anniversaries this week. Christian, which of these films kind of stand out to you?
Do I have to say one of them? My God, what a bunch of bombs. These all came out in December, all these movies?
Yeah.
Wow, this was a different time. I actually do remember Balto and, Grumpier Old Men. Grumpier Old Men for sure. Sudden Death is a guilty movie pleasure for sure, but Dracula Dead and Loving It, I remember because I was such a Leslie Nielsen fan to see that movie. What an embarrassment of a movie that was. And then the other one that I remember what's the Jim Carrey one? The Fun with Tom?
Fun with Dick and Jane.
Oh my God! I mean that was. This is tough. This is like
it's a rough release
It's
date.
like they wanted to send everything from
Cheaper
January.
by the Dozen 2 wasn't all that bad.
All right.
It wasn't all that bad.
I guess Christmas was the dumping ground 20 years ago, right?
It sure
It
seems
feels
like
like that.
Everything, even 10 years ago, because all the stuff in 10 years was horrible too. I'm looking, okay, where's the one gem?
No.
And then there's nothing. I mean, that's
Well,
rough
Cutthroat
stuff.
Island is that's not the wrong
That's-
one. That's
yeah.
the one that destroyed a lot of careers.
Well, 'cause I think
Rennie
that one was-
Harlan's
you know what?
career.
I
had
got
to
so
rerun.
excited when I saw Cutthroat Island because I got it confused with The Long Kiss Goodnight, which is the other Gina Davis movie, which is
Right.
actually pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah,
it's got her,
yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson, before anybody knew who Samuel Jackson really was.
Shane Black wrote it.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Long Kiss Goodnight, check that out. But this is
Don't
not Long
check
Kiss
out. This is a
Goodnight.
Matthew Modine, Gina Davis, directed by Rennie Harlan, nightmare, freak out, pirate movie that you don't want to see. This
And
is the non-pirate.
It was
If
originally
you-
called Garbage.
If you don't know the name Matthew Modine, it's because of this movie.
Yeah, this movie helped.
Because you would have known the name Matthew. Actually,
Yeah.
Matthew Modine was in Dark Knight Rises.
Right.
So some people might remember him from that, but he was kind of poised at that time to be the next big A-list guy.
Before that movie, he was in Full Metal Jacket.
Vision Quest,
and
man.
Vision Quest is what
Love
put him on the
Vision
map.
Quest, yeah.
And then this was supposed to be like one of his big blockbusters,
Yeah.
and it
Fizzled.
didn't quite go. I'm with you though. Sudden Death to me.
Yeah.
Die Hard in a hockey arena.
Right.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
And what was
Save the Day.
what's the one on the first list? The 10 years old? This is 20 years
Cheaper
old.
by the Dozen 2, Fun with Dick and Jane. That's the Jim Carrey one. The Ringer.
The Ringer.
That's the first movie I ever walked out of.
Yeah.
Yep, that was a pal of mine actually played one of the
Special Olympians.
Special Olympians, but he wasn't he was an actor. But they mix and matched everybody. So shout out to my friend Bill Cott for being in The Ringer.
Yeah, first movie I ever walked out of.
And Wolf Creek I found really disturbing. That was like one of those horror movies where you're like, this is really grisly, you know? It was really like just like this old man in Australia is just torturing these people. Is that what this movie is? And that's what that movie is, really. So there's a Wolf Creek too, if you like that kind of stuff. You know, that's about it.
Couple things actually came up in the movie news. I guess we could talk about before we get to the live Twitter questions. And one of the things, it was announced that Sony, as many of you know, Lord and Miller are writing the treatment. They're not writing the script, but they're writing the treatment for, and they're going to be producers on a new Sony-produced animated Spider-Man feature film. And it was originally supposed to come out in the summer of 2018. They now pushed it back about 6 months. And now the animated Spider-Man feature film is not coming out until Christmas of 2018. So there's that bit of a push. Look, tell me if I'm crazy here. I was actually okay with the idea. I actually thought it was a pretty nifty idea to do an animated Spider-Man. Now I don't. Now I'm like wondering, wait a minute, why? There are animated Spider-Man things on television right now.
Right.
Why would people pay $12 to go to a movie theater, watch an animated Spider-Man if they can just watch animated Spider-Man at home every day of the week for free? And like the whole notion of it is, do we want to see on the big screen because it's bringing it to life? It's the live action Spider-Man. They're doing that. So I was actually initially really on board with this, and now I'm just scratching my head. Schnepp convinced me this is a good idea.
I can't, because I also don't think it's a good idea. And
I thought you did.
No, I didn't think it was a good idea when they announced it, because they had announced Sony's bringing. I think they had announced the Lord and Miller thing before we even heard about the Marvel Sony deal. So it was like, oh, okay, Lord and Miller. They were developing Flash for DC, and then they were also developing this animated Spider-Man. I was like, all right,
now they're doing this little Han Solo movie,
right.
whatever
so
that
the
is.
Han Solo movie basically canceled their Flash thing, and at the same time, I have a feeling that even though they're pushing it back 6 months, that eventually this film will disappear or go straight to video. Why? Because I think the amazing, whatever they're going to call the new Spider-Man movie, the Marvel Sony version of this new movie with Holland as Spider-Man, and how it's the cinematic blend of the Marvel and Sony worlds. That's what they're going to try to do.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a smash hit. I think Spider-Man is going to be
the live action.
The live action one is going to be really well received as the intro in Civil War this coming year. It's going to set up the movie for 2017. They're going to probably be in production for Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man 2 and 3. They'll be like, we're going to shoot them back to back, and that's going to make this film seem like a even stranger fit than it already is. I agree. It's like the animated worlds of Marvel and DC are served best on direct-to-video or straight-to-video. You know, it's like we have series like Young Justice. You have all these, all the way down to Batman Beyond, where you're like, we can try stuff, we can see what works and what doesn't work. They have the straight-to-video releases that DC does all the time. It just seems to make sense that they're pushing it back, but that to me is a big clue to being like, let's push it back so it's not in people's main stage. Like, we've got this movie, then this movie. Now it's even farther away. Now it's like 2.5 years. And
the other thing I don't get about is like the appeal of the superhero movies is that like my mom, I mean, I go back to my mom a lot, but my mom wants to go see X-Men Apocalypse. My mom will never watch an X-Men animated show on TV or pick up an X-Men comic. She wants to go see X-Men Apocalypse. She wants to see Captain America Civil War and all that kind of stuff. That's why these movies make this much money, because it's that kind of appeal. I don't see my mom wanting to go out to the theater to watch an animated Spider-Man thing. And then the argument might be, well, it's going to be for the younger kids. Well, yeah, but the younger kids, again, have the free stuff on TV that the parents can already show them. So I don't know. Okay, he wouldn't do it. Can you convince me?
No.
You have a daughter.
No, because I'm with him. I think that, when was this announced? Was this announced before Marvel Sony deal?
That's what I
no,
can't
it wasn't.
remember.
I think it was after the Marvel Sony deal.
Because if it was announced before, I would have said, oh, maybe they announced they were going to do this big thing. They obviously put Lord and Miller, and they said, yeah, this will be a good way to maybe get Spider-Man back into the hearts and minds of everybody. But now, but you say if it's afterwards, they might still want to do it, but I don't know why it makes sense.
Is it a Lego Spider-Man?
Yeah,
it's like that's the only reason they should do it.
That's the thing, is that if they're going to do something maybe in a different, I guess pun intended, spin, and you have their comedy blending into what Spider-Man is, and you can add that into the animation, it's confusing to me. I don't know why they would do it, and as far as being pushed back, I agree with you. I think it's going to eventually disappear or go straight to Blu-ray.
Yeah, Ashley, let me ask Ashley, this is somebody who's not like the hardcore comic book fan. You hear that there's an animated Spider-Man movie coming out. Honestly, are you interested in running to see it?
Not in the slightest.
Not
at all. Like, I'm still stuck on the fact that Andrew Garfield isn't Spider-Man anymore. I know some people are excited about this younger version of Spider-Man.
Holland, yeah.
I get that we can use him for a while, but I'm going to miss Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. And on top of that, an animated Spider-Man movie? No. If I wanted to see that, I'd just sit at home and watch some animated cartoons.
Bam.
Yeah, it's you bring up the Andrew Garfield thing again, and it's true. It's like, look, I am one of those guys. I think a lot of people who didn't like The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I think there's a lot of those people who still like Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker. I think you were one of them. You liked Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker, and I really liked him. And yet even I, as a big defender of Andrew Garfield, I'm like, look, if you are going to try to now introduce Spider-Man to the MCU and have the standalone films at the same time, even I was like, you got to reboot it and you got to recast it. It sucks because I really did like Andrew Garfield. I was looking forward to a third Amazing Spider-Man. I really thought they could have corrected the ship.
I thought he was great. I really liked him a lot too. It's just I like where they're going with this, and the younger version of it. It was just so hard to, and because those two movies had a big stink on them. So even though he was great, even if they did bring in an older Spider-Man, you still would have had to recast him because it's just you associate him with those.
Well, the first one was great.
The second one.
Yeah.
The second one.
The second one was all right. Well, a couple other things came up. This one was interesting. It is the year of Star Wars, pretty much. And you know what was interesting is about a month or two ago, this story went out that Star Wars and Lucasfilm and Disney were not going to screen Star Wars The Force Awakens for the major critic groups before its release date. Why was that key? It's key because a lot of these major critic groups, including the biggest, the Broadcast Film Critic Association, which I think are the second most relevant awards in award season next to the Oscars themselves, they have a deadline of when they have to see the films if you're going to be nominated. And Star Wars wouldn't do it. Totally fair. What came out this morning, though, it might have come out last night, is that now that all the critics in the Broadcast Film Critics Society have seen the film, they had an executive committee make a decision that they were making an exception for Star Wars The Force Awakens. So even though, and actually, can you look up the existing 10 nominees for the Broadcast Film Critics Association for this year? Even though the Broadcast Film Critics Association had announced their 10 nominees for Best Picture already, they have now changed it, and now it's a list of 11. Star Wars The Force Awakens is now going to be nominated for Best Picture, along with 10 other films at the Broadcast Film Critics Association or Society. And I think they've only done this once before. And I think that was for Tom Hanks's, what was the one who was stranded on the island? Castaway. Right. I think Castaway was the one film that they had made an exception on that for before. So do we have a list of the other 10?
No, I'm looking for it.
But I'll look for it too. But Schnepp, do you think this was the right move for them, or should they have just stuck to the rules and not included it?
I think it's pretty cool that they had a last minute committee decision, and I think Star Wars: The Force Awakens is such an entertaining and great film that it makes sense for them to add it to one of the year's best. To at the very least be in the category to be nominated to be one of the best. So it makes sense if the movie still broke all the box office that it did and it wasn't a good film, then I wouldn't feel that way. But I've already seen that film twice. I found it incredibly satisfying. What a fun adventure, and what a great return to that original feeling of the original Star Wars of excitement. So yeah, I think them going with the nomination of adding Star Wars as an 11th nominated, in this category makes a lot of sense. I mean, they're just fixing something that they couldn't fix, because honestly, that whole thing was all about spoilers, and it's still going on. I can't get in a car without somebody saying, I haven't seen the movie yet. So it's like they're very careful about that, and it's really important when you see the film to go in as fresh as possible without any knowledge of it.
All right, so here are the films that are nominated for Best Picture for the Broadcast Film Critics Association. It is The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Brooklyn, Carol, Mad Max Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, Room, Sicario, Spotlight, and now Star Wars The Force Awakens. Wow. 2 films on that list jump out to me as not being there.
What's that?
Hateful Eight.
Right.
Did not make their top 10, or as it is top 11, and Ex Machina. did not make it on their top 10 list. So that's interesting. But Star Wars does get love. What about you, Christian? You think this is a good move for them to include this film on the list, or do you think they should have stuck to the rules and kept it out?
Yeah, and I know the first thing people are going to say is, well, wait a minute, they're just changing the rules because it's a popular movie, and that's why they're putting it in.
They've done it one time before.
Yeah, well, the reason also is because the amount. This was different. They didn't get screeners beforehand, so they were all able to see it. And you look at the critical response. I don't know what it's still, but at one point it was like 92% or something to it. It's people are responding to this movie, whether it's fans or critics. So it registered. They put it in there. I think it is a good move. Now, I don't think it'll win, but I also think that it should be recognized for everything that it's done. It's also nice to see something like Mad Max and Star Wars The Force Awakens in there. That it's not just, like you were saying the other day, Schnepp, it's not just these, whether it's the serious or the drama, the drama pieces or the biopics, they're changing it up at least to a broader scale.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you look at that list, I think I could kick off 5 of them right away that almost no one has seen because they were like a limited release, independent films, had a very small release in very spotty areas of theaters. So most of every single movie going, the audience in general, don't know what these films are. Carol or Brooklyn, they went under the radar. So it's like to be nominated means they get a bit more of that shine. They get that spotlight. They're like, oh, what's this? So that's what this nomination process usually is, like bring forth some of these films that didn't get enough coverage because they're like they had $1 million budget, to include other films like The Martian or like Revenant or like Mad Max. I think is great because it's showing, look, this is across the board. All these films were also great, but these are big budget films. And I feel the same applies to Star Wars: The Force Awakens. It's obviously a monster budgeted film. It's also a giant global success, but it's also a really fun film. It works on all levels. So once again, I think that's great for them to shine a spotlight on, hey, this film, like if you like Star Wars, you might like Brooklyn, because it puts them in the same category and unites all film. So I think it's cool.
That's one of the things I really like about the Broadcast Film Critics Association, is that, and their awards at any rate, is because they really don't give a flying crap about if something is the auteur's choice or if something is mega popular. They just sit back and say, we think these are the best movies. And first, I know there will be some people who are saying, oh, it's only because it's making so much money they're including stars. Let's look at Star Wars' resume for a second. Right now, it holds a 92% audience rating. An audience rating of 92%. And a critic rating, everybody says critics don't like popular films. They don't like what's big, and it's got a 95% critic rating right now. 95% critic rating, 92% audience rating. Its resume supports it. It deserves a spot in this list, and I'm really glad they did it. All right, let's do one last thing here before we get to the Twitter questions. Once again, guys, you can start sending in your Twitter questions to @ColliderVideo. We're going to spend all the rest of this final show before the Christmas holidays taking your Twitter questions. Last thing is this: James Cameron was being interviewed, and he dropped a couple things about the upcoming Avatar sequels. And this is what he said. He said, first of all, they're aiming right now, we've heard them say that before, they are aiming for Christmas 2017 for Avatar 2 to drop. They are aiming to actually start shooting in the next couple of weeks. They're aiming to start actually shooting. He said a lot of the sets are built. He said 90% of the design is done. The script is never stopping being worked on, but it's close. And they're saying we're going to start shooting this thing in January. So that's good. And he reaffirmed that their plan is to introduce, even though they're shooting it all together, they're going to release one film every year. So Christmas 2017, 2018, 2019. That's the plan right now. Any of that stand out to you as being interesting?
It's funny though too, because I was talking to Jonathan about it before, and it's risky. It's a risky move right now because yes, Avatar is the champion of all-time box office too. It came out at a time, it started the reboot of the 3D, or really put it to what we know with 3D today. It was a film-going experience for sure, and it really was the only dominant movie in December at the time, and lived on through January and I think February. But now the landscape is changing, and when you have movies like, say, it's The Force Awakens, and then there's other Marvel movies that are coming out and DC movies that are coming out, I don't think it's going to be the financial juggernaut that it was before. I certainly think that if the second one, the one that comes out in 2017, is good, then it's got a shot to just be successful. But I think it's such a risk to do a movie that, and I know a lot of people think that Avatar, I actually really like Avatar, but there are a lot of people who hate it, which is funny considering how much money it made.
Right.
And I don't, if it does if it's not that great, I think it's a super financial risk and a potential disaster if the first one in the 17 is not really good to shoot. But it makes sense to shoot back to back. But
I think
let's keep this in mind too. 2017, there's not a Star Wars film in December.
well, but there are Marvel movies or DC movies. There's something coming out.
There's lots of things always going to be around
Right.
it. So I think
I
they're
just saying
pretty
it
much
doesn't have the only
safe.
space that it had when it came out in 2009. It was the only
Yeah.
game in town.
I don't think we got a December release for DC or Marvel. I think we got a November.
November
release.
is normally
yeah.
when they
no
rock
December?
it.
Yeah.
I think it's a really smart move, and I have a really good feeling about these new Avatar films. I was recently in a ride in a Lyft, and the guy driving was like asking me about movies, this and that, and he was like, hey, what do you think of that movie Avatar? I remember that was that. I saw we saw that by mistake. I loved it. It blew my mind. I think a lot of people have fond memories of going to see Avatar, going to see this 3D thing and blowing their mind, because that was a movie that was made for 3D. I think these new movies are also going to be made for 3D. James Cameron's an incredible auteur director, and I look forward to any of his films that he does. I'm really looking forward to these 3 back-to-back Avatars because he believes in them. He's like, he's created this world. He's had this vision. He's seeing it all the way through. He's shooting 3 movies back-to-back. And what I think is they're going to probably re-release the original Avatar probably in September of 2017. Brighten it up, get like some, refresh the graphics or whatever they're going to do, add 10 minutes, add a little flavor of the brand new one at the end, whatever they're going to do.
Pretty long movie already.
It's a pretty long movie, but that's what I mean. I think the fans of the first Avatar will come back in droves. They've been waiting for this movie for, close to a decade when it finally comes out in 2017. I think that's going to re-releasing the original one will refresh the memory of Avatar, seeing it in the big screen, seeing it in 3D, and it'll get everyone re-excited. And knowing you have a brand new trilogy that will be all new is exciting to me. Like, I'm excited to see what he has. The plans that he has for these 3 movies is exciting to me, that I know nothing about it. I know he's creating these weird worlds, underwater worlds, freaky worlds. It's James Cameron. He's a really great filmmaker. So I'm ultra excited to hear that they are doing back-to-back shooting January. I'm glad that they finally committed to a release date, and then that release date is going to see 3 more come out. So
And
it's
Christmas
fantastic.
Miracle, that means Sam Worthington has work again. Oh. I like Sam Worthington.
he was good in
I don't
that.
know why I
He-
said I
you know
like
he was
Sam
good in
Worthington.
that.
You know what he's really
He's
good
in a number of things.
He's really good when he's in supporting roles. He really he was really great in Cake. He's in a lot of these movies when he's in supporting roles that he is even in the Everest. He was just in Everest. And he was really good in Everest as well too. He was one of these guys that very similar to like Jai Courtney again too, where the studio went, "Hey, that's your movie star. Take your new movie star." And we're like, "No, let him earn it. Let him earn it." And I think Sam Worthington is starting to earn it through the supporting roles. He was really good. I thought he was good in Avatar, and that was the one. But Terminator, they tried to shove us down.
Right.
Yeah,
Clash of the Titans.
that didn't work.
And he's
You know what he was good in? That he led, and it wasn't a great movie, but I thought he was quite good in it. Remember that little film he did, Man on a Ledge?
yeah, I like that one.
I actually thought he was pretty good in that movie. I liked him a lot in that. All right, folks. Well, like I said, we're going to take now just all your Twitter questions. So send them on in. Ashley is our gatekeeper. So, Ashley, what are you picking out today?
Trey Macvell writes, who is the greatest supporting actor? Mine is Gary Oldman. His roles are not lead roles, but he crushed them like a chameleon.
Gary Oldman's great. My favorite.
I know who you're gonna
say. I bet you don't.
I
If you do, bonus points to you.
He's in
First
Concussion. And he's in
You're
Contact.
right. Yes, you're right. David Morse. Well done.
Yeah.
Whenever David Morse pops up in a film, you know you are going to get it. He is outstanding.
He's really good. He's really good in Concussion too.
And
Scary.
he's just fantastic in everything he's in.
Yeah.
When he shows up, it just adds something to the movie because he will morph into. Do you need him to be the big brooding, like even at his age right now, he can be the big brooding, hulky, kind of threatening looking guy. He can be a frail old man. He can be a funny dude here. He can be like just whatever. He seems to have a nose for really interesting movies, and then will attach himself to it. So to me, see, Gary Oldman is a A-list guy that sometimes plays leads in some things, oftentimes will play supporting, whatever. A true supporting, or what they would call a character actor. would be David Morse, and he is tragically underrated. I love this guy, so that's mine. What about yours, Christian?
I can't remember his name, and he was in L.A. Confidential. Go. I'm gonna look him up.
Not Cromwell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cromwell.
The guy who was in
Cromwell's-
Star Trek. He was the guy. I'm gonna create the warp
Babe!
drive.
Yeah.
Babe.
Yeah.
No, he's great. I go to some of the old standbys. Christopher Walken always makes a movie better. It's like salt and pepper. You're just like adding ingredients. You're like throw a little Walken in there. It just makes the movie just a little bit better. Steve Buscemi, another actor.
Oh, yeah.
Who's like great in lead roles recently, but he started out as an amazing character actor, and still whenever he pops up in a movie, he adds that flavor.
Would you say Sam Rockwell? I guess too.
Sam
'cause
Rockwell's
Robert's good,
amazing.
but,
Yeah.
but a legit lead at the same time.
But he
he's-
doesn't. If you look at the movies he's led, they haven't done
Aside
well.
from-
And he
No, I mean,
doesn't
that's
do- and
true,
he doesn't
but-
do, and it's not that he's not. This guy's one of the best out
Yeah.
there. There's the smaller movies like Moon and stuff, of course. But I mean, there's when the majority of times you see him is when he's shining in supporting roles. Like the other one, The Way Back, is the one that he was so good in.
Or to go back to a conversation we had previously, Rob Schneider.
Ooh.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right, what's next?
Skylar writes, have you guys heard anything about a Jumanji remake or sequel?
I believe we were talking
doing a
about that.
remake.
Yeah, they are doing a remake. We were talking about that one recently. But it was recent news. So the progress on it at this point, not sure, but I'm fairly certain they are making one.
Yeah, they're probably just locked in, still trying to decide on what the script's going to be. You know how long
Yeah, the
they
direction
take.
they're going to go. I mean, so we're probably looking at something maybe 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Zeke Zola writes, will Disney/Lucasfilm continue to be as secretive for episode 8 and 9?
Here's something interesting. They did not do set visits for Star Wars Episode 7. And one of the things that I was told was that that was mostly because of JJ. And we know JJ likes to be very secretive. And and after you've seen Star Wars The Force Awakens, the secrecy is completely justified because the movie is a movie of like key things that happen that can alter your viewing experience. And so I get it. I think the secrecy they had was completely justified, even though JJ is already traditionally known for being very secretive. I have heard that Star Wars like Episode 8 and stuff like that will have set visits. So while I think you're still going to have a general feel of secrecy, I don't think it'll be as Fort Knox as it was for Episode 7. I don't know. Christian, what do you think?
I think it'll be a little bit more laid back, but the reason why they will probably definitely be super secretive is because it worked. I mean, it worked even with the press and everything too. And whether or not it had anything to do with the amount of success that it had, probably not. They'll still contribute to it, and they'll say, like, wait a minute, we were so secretive, and people were so curious about it. Look what it did in the numbers. So maybe they'll try to be more secretive with 8. But the fact that they're doing set visits, and you got to assume there's going to be more spoilers, spoilers. There's so many questions that are unanswered still that we want to see more of, and we're going to learn more of. Maybe they're answered in 8 or even in 9. So I think they will, but because JJ is not directing them, maybe not as tight.
Hey, speaking of the big questions that still remain, this is a good time to let you know, even though there's no new movie talk tomorrow is a Jedi Council with Christian, myself, John, and Ken Knapsack is going to be joining us as well. And we're just taking a lot of your questions that you guys have sent in regarding the big questions that still exist. So if you haven't seen Star Wars Force Awakens, you're probably not going to want to watch tomorrow's episode of Jedi Council, because we are going to get into those questions, which by definition will reveal a lot of spoilers. But watch for that tomorrow. It's going to go up tomorrow afternoon sometime. Keep your eye open for that. Anyway, Schnepp.
You know what? Without going into anything from the new movies, I'm going to go back in time, like over 30 years ago when Star Wars came out. And then they were making this movie called The Empire Strikes Back. Now, as a little kid, I remember being in the theater and seeing the first trailer for The Empire Strikes Back. Darth Vader jumping with his lightsaber, him fighting Luke. It's like the Millennium Falcon in an asteroid field. You're like, what is this? I don't know what it's going to be, but I can't wait to see it. It was so exciting. And the big spoiler for The Empire Strikes Back was that Darth Vader was Luke's father. And they kept that secret. They didn't reveal that at all until the movie came out. No one talked about it. No one ruined it because it just wasn't released until the movie came out. And I think that with this new episode 8, whatever it's going to be called, we know that, wow, I almost gave away a spoiler. Sorry. It's really hard to not talk about it without talking about it. I know. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Tell the
truth.
So, you can't tell the truth. Anyway, episode 8, I think, they will loosen it a little bit. It's like, hey, check it out. You might get on a set visit. Look at this weird planet. Stuff like that.
Right.
You'll get a little bit of flavor. Some people are going to talk about certain things that at once all you catch up in the next week or two, you'll know certain things and be like, it won't be as weird when you hear about that stuff. But I like the element of secrecy, and I like that. I really love the way they played it up with this episode. It's a little frustrating because everyone is like, I haven't seen it yet. You're like, feel like you're surrounded. Like, who can I talk to? Who's seen it? Oh, you've seen it. Let's go talk about it. Right. We have to whisper about it. It's like this weird secrecy. Even though the movie's out and it's the most popular movie ever, we still can't fully talk about it. Just in public.
It's going to feel like therapy.
Can you not spoil it for me? I haven't seen
it yet. Jedi Council is going to feel like therapy.
Yeah, Jedi Council, we're rocking the spoilers, so you better watch it tomorrow, but you have to have seen the movie. Right. We're letting you know. We're
Christmas
talking
Eve
about
treat.
everything. Everything will be revealed.
All right, what's next?
Collider Fanboy writes, is there any new news about Pirates of the Caribbean 5?
No, I mean, the last legit piece of news that really came out was Johnny Depp crushing his hand. And remember that?
Yes,
crushed his hand, had to fly back to the States to
he
get
was
medical
waving,
attention.
yeah.
Fortunately, he's just an actor. It's not like he's an NFL football player, an NBA player that he needs the operating all digits. But apparently he seemed really in good spirits when he was getting on the plane to fly back.
Right.
He was fine. He had his hand wrapped up, going back to get it worked on. So I don't believe the film was delayed. I believe at the time they even said, look, we're just moving our shooting schedule around. So stuff that we were going to shoot later, we'll shoot now while Johnny's out. Then we'll do all of Johnny's stuff later. So I think everything's still on track. Other than that, really nothing new to report.
I think Amber Heard almost got her dogs killed when she flew him over to a
I
set
didn't hear
visit.
about
Yeah,
that.
she didn't have them checked in. They were like, the government stole the dogs back, and they were like, there's a big, hey, look, luckily the dogs were not put to sleep, but you gotta obey rules when you're going from country to country, especially with animals. I think it's called Pirates of the Caribbean 5 Cutthroat Island. That's what I heard.
You heard
I haven't
anything
heard
else?
anything about it.
All right, what's next?
Desmond writes, who's more badass, Charlize Theron in Mad Max or Emily Blunt?
In what?
In anything.
Anything?
Wow.
It's unfair because I think Emily Blunt is pretty badass. So I think it's unfair to compare anybody to her. I think right now she is the most, let's put it this way. If you had a fight between Imperator Furiosa,
Right,
and I forget Emily's character's name in Edge of Tomorrow. Emily Blunt's Edge of Tomorrow
Super
thing.
warrior.
Yeah, Emily Blunt wins that. That character wins that fight.
Right.
We don't actually see, while she is mentally, Furiosa is totally mentally tough. We don't actually see her in a lot of combat.
She could outdrive her.
Yes, she will
in a big
outdrive
rig.
Emily Blunt. Yes.
If you put them both in a giant vehicle in the desert, Furiosa wins. In all other aspects, the warrior woman from Edge of Tomorrow.
The war hero.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's kind of an unfair thing.
It's funny because if you put them side by side and you didn't know anything about them, Furiosa looks tougher.
Yeah.
Oh, she
looks like
furious.
But
She's
when
got a metal arm.
everything. It just
And her name is Imperator Furiosa.
She looks more
I
badass.
mean, like, how badass is the name?
But not only because we didn't put a specific movie at tomorrow, even in Looper. Like,
Oh, yeah.
She's chopping wood all crazy
she's just
warrior
like,
style.
she's protecting
Got the
herself by herself,
shotgun.
man. Like, I gotta go Emily Blunt.
Looper, directed by the Episode 8 director, Ryan Johnson.
That's
Check
what
out
makes me so
Looper if you
excited.
haven't seen Looper.
That gets me so excited just when you say that. And
Yeah.
I mean, Brick, like all that
Yeah.
stuff, man.
Yeah. A
Empire
very
Strikes Back, here we come.
Intelligent, amazing writer-director is handling the writing and directing of Episode 8. That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Max Washington writes, what is your favorite old-time black and white movie? Mine is Casablanca.
We did that the other
I
day.
think somebody else asked us that the other day. I mean, It's a Wonderful Life.
I'm still going.
Go check out Double Indemnity. That's a great. His Girl Friday. I'd rock Out of the Past. I mean, there's so many
Citizen
amazing
Kane.
ones.
Citizen Kane is a huge one.
I mean, there's
Marshall
like
and Soldiers.
we could give you a list next year of the 100 black and white movies that you must see before
By
you
the
die.
way, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
What?
Putting together a list of 100 films.
Yeah, we're
black
not
and white that you
doing
guys
that.
are
I'll
not
do
doing
it.
that.
I'll do it on Twitter. Like, I don't know. It'll take like 400
Dude,
posts.
it takes me 2 weeks to get an email response from you. When are you going to
I'm
put
saying
together a
next
100
year.
list?
Next year. Sometime next year.
All right, what's next?
Michael Precourt writes, which of the BFCA Best Picture nominees would you cut from the list if you could? I pulled up the nominees if you guys want to hear.
No, I got there. So it's The Big Short. Well, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Brooklyn, Carol, Mad Max: Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, Room, Sicario, and Spotlight. And I'm assuming if you're asking cut one, it would be to either make room for me. It would be either to make room for The Hateful Eight or Ex Machina. I know for you, it would probably be Ex Machina that you'd want to slide in there.
Yeah.
So which one would you slide out to make room for Ex Machina.
Listen, I think the performances were great.
I completely agree. I know where you're going with that. I agree.
The movie itself I thought was good, but I think that for me, Ex Machina was like a brand new take on sci-fi that I would take out Carol and put in Ex Machina.
Right. I would agree with you because they're both character pieces, but one is like a little more interesting to put in Ex Machina. And I would slide in Hateful Eight as a great character piece. I mean, I don't know why it's not in there. So that's a hard list, though. I mean, because all those movies are really good.
Yeah, I mean, there's not one. I agree with you about Carol. Like, to me, it's still an amazing movie to watch because of the performances. Overall, though, I would probably slide it out in exchange for Ex Machina. Ex Machina is not going to be in my top 5 per se, but I would slide Carol out to make room for Ex Machina. That's what I would. All right, what's next?
Entertainment Geek writes, of the new cast in The Force Awakens, who has the chance to have a long-term career in Hollywood?
All of them. Well, okay, first of all, number one, let's look at Oscar Isaac. He's already established. He's already on the path to being huge. I mean, Inside Llewyn Davis, Ex Machina, now we got him this. He's already...
The dude's Apocalypse.
Yeah, he's Apocalypse. So
he's already breakout.
He's in the trailer in front of his own movie.
Yeah, that's right. Before The Force Awakens opens, he's already poised for a very long, very healthy career. And he's talented. He's real good. And the women all swoon when they see him too, and that doesn't hurt either. Boyega, here's nice. He was already he was already a guy to keep your eye on because of Attack the Block.
Yeah.
Although he hasn't broken out.
Right.
He's going to break out now. To me, he was the biggest surprise of Star Wars Force Awakens. I loved his performance, and I love what he brought to that. I think you and I were talking the other day in your office or my office, and we were talking about how, you know who the happiest person and the most excited person in the world this Christmas season is? Daisy Ridley's agent.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is the happiest, most excited guy in the world right now. She is going to be a megastar. And it's because she's not a sex symbol. This is what excites me about Daisy Ridley. I mean, beautiful girl, don't get me wrong. But it's not like Cameron Diaz in The Mask.
She's like a more approachable Keira Knightley.
That's a perfect analogy.
That's
like 2 days in a row. You've pulled out like great comparisons.
Because normally I'm a moron.
but she just owned the character, and that's what everybody's paying attention. It's not like, because she's the hottest girl in the universe, which is what sometimes happens in this backwards thinking industry. It's no. She's going to get noticed, and she's going to get noticed because of her talent and what she brought, because she was great. So I think all three of them, long-term, and Adam Driver again was already on poise for long-term success before Star Wars ever came out. So.
All of them, they're all gonna. What I think the good news is that they all have. I think when you look at like Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, besides Mark Hamill being an amazing voiceover actor and stuff too, they were pretty much typecast. After Harrison Ford got out of it, but those two were typecast. I don't think there's going to be a lot of typecasting for this cast, and I think that because Oscar Isaac already was on that path, John Boyega, what's going to help him as well as the guy is so charismatic
and likable.
Oh man, he just you can see him doing comedies and action. He can do it all. I think he's going to be around, and he's young, so he'll be doing stuff for a long time. And Daisy Ridley. Nobody knew, because with Boyega, like you said, you saw him in Attack the Block, and then in 24, that very short thing, there's just something about him. Daisy Ridley, you're like, let's hope this girl doesn't suck, because if she does, this movie's gonna be terrible. And she was the farthest thing from suck. She was great. She's my favorite thing in the entire movie because she can be one of those women that can do dramatic, but maybe now can do what Scarlett Johansson is doing. Maybe pop into some more. Again, very young, 23, 24, whatever she is. So I think those two are going to have a very different career, though, than say an Oscar Isaac or a Donald Gleason, who's been in Donald Gleason is in everything. Right. I mean, the guy's probably been like Revenant and Ex Machina and this. He's in everything. So I think they're all going to have really solid careers. And Andy Serkis, even though he's been around for a while too, I think this is another role in. I think episode 8 will be bigger.
I don't know that this particular movie did anything to further.
Not this one.
Yeah,
not this one.
Maybe the next one.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I think that Andy Serkis will even get more notice, because right around the time episode 8 comes out, I believe it's right around the time that Dawn of the Planet, or whatever the new one, War of the Apes. I think they come out the same year.
And his Jungle Book movie as a director will be coming out.
I think he's going to have a pretty big year.
He's writing, directing, and starring in Steelskin, the Rumpelstiltskin movie.
Is he really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's got his own film
So
recently.
Andy Serkis is another guy. He's already kind of out there, but I think he's going to have a really big year in 2017.
Daisy Ridley, she reminds me of Sigourney Weaver in Alien.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
that's my comparison. Like a breakout star who no one knew who she was, is it the star of the film basically, and she's incredible. Like after Alien, Sigourney Weaver was on everybody's list,
Right.
and she was in a ton of movies. I don't want Daisy Ridley to do what Mark Hamill did and get in a Corvette Summer type of a film. So it's like
Right.
her agent now has to be on because that's what happened to Hamill. Like Hamill, giant megastar, just on the same level as Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford made a couple of right moves by locking in doing Blade Runner and doing Indiana Jones and all. He just got into this rhythm. Of
He
doing,
lucked into Indiana
He
Jones.
lucked into Tom Selleck was almost there's a lot.
Right.
He skipped in on that one, but. And we are so lucky he got to play in
Yes, we did.
because he was amazing. So Hamill, he didn't have that kind of luck. He was in the Big Red One. A couple of different things that just didn't.
Well, he got
lock
that
in.
accident too. That accident hurt
Right,
his
the
career.
accident
Yeah.
hurt him, but I'm just saying it's like a couple of those moves weren't on the right moves in the Hollywood game. So you want Daisy Ridley to make those moves, especially while she still has some other films going on.
And,
So
and she de facto became America's sweetheart before the movie ever came out, when the trailer came out, and that reaction video
Yep.
of her watching the trailer for the first time on her phone when she was in that bed and breakfast, laying in
Right.
that bed. That thing went viral,
Yeah.
and America fell in love with, the world fell in love with her months before Star Wars ever came out. And so you're right. It's for Daisy Ridley, especially because she hasn't done anything else before to
Right.
fall back on. The next couple of choices are going to be key and very important.
Boyega, incredible talent. I was a big fan of his from Attack the Block, and I was like waiting to see what the next thing that guy was going to do because he literally was discovered doing Attack the Block. All those kids were all youngsters, and Joe Cornish did a great job with that film. That guy is mad talented.
I got it. John Boyega and Miles Teller in the Miami Vice remake.
A Lethal
Do
Weapon.
it. Or Lethal
Or Lethal Weapon.
I'm kidding about both,
I think
by the way.
Boyega's got a really long career, and his acting in The Force Awakens is infectious. His
It is.
energy,
It
it's
is.
so much
I'm
fun.
sucked in every time
You
he's on
want
screen.
Every time he's on screen, you're just like, you can't wait to see what he's
And
going to do
you
next.
don't know what he's gonna say
you
next,
don't
and
know
he-
what he's going to
I
do.
love that about him.
It's a great character for him. So Boyega and Ridley definitely are the standouts. And then you have all these other actors who are already established. You have Adam Driver, does a great performance. You have Oscar Isaacs, does a great performance. You have all these other people who are really they're not super well known yet, but they're amazing. They're known to all of us.
Well, they are now.
Yeah, they are now.
Now they are all super well known. So those two are the standouts for me, and I can't wait to see what they do next.
All right, what's next?
Chase Berry writes, greatest movie car.
The DeLorean.
Batmobile, all of them.
DeLorean. All right, what's next?
Jakey Power Glory writes, has there been any word on the U.S. remake of Battle Royale? I feel like it would work great post Hunger Games. Thank you.
Yeah, it was called Hunger Games.
Yeah, that was. The Battle Royale. They've already had a couple of them. They've had like three.
Yeah,
I've
there are the
seen
three
two
battle
of them.
royales. I mean,
Yeah.
a North American version is a good idea to introduce the North American audience to that story. The thing is, will you have the guts, whatever studio, I'm not even sure which studio it is that has the rights, will they have the guts to really go for it and go hard R
Right.
and make it disturbing and gruesome? And the things that make Battle Royale work in the original version, are you willing to do those things too? Because if you are, a North American remake could actually be pretty special.
It's
If
so
you're
close.
not,
It's like the Hunger
it's
Games.
it's a waste. Well, it's,
Yeah, but this,
It's
it's
so
funny. Everyone
close.
always says that when the Hunger Games came out, everyone said, "Oh, it's a ripoff of Battle Royale." But when Battle Royale came out, no one said it's a ripoff of Running Man, because
Right.
when Running Man, you said, "Hey, Christmas tree."
I know, but the Running Man's a ripoff of the 10th Victim.
Right.
Which
There's
is,
always-
I mean,
there's
there's
always-
the
every
most
movie is
dangerous
a ripoff
game
of something.
It's the most
you
dangerous
could-
game
you
is the
could do it.
original.
But I agree that you have to do it. You have to go, because we've already got the PG-13 version in Hunger Games. So if
Right.
you're gonna do it, go the rated R version.
'cause
Also,
it's the way Battle Royale makes you feel, which is like the best word I can describe is disturbed.
Yes.
Like disturbed at like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And you can't get that. Like, I'm the type of guy, hey, like nothing, you don't have to make things rated R. If you really want to capture the essence of what Battle Royale is, though, and you're gonna do it in North American times, you gotta do it R. If you ain't gonna do it R, don't do it.
Yeah. Especially that'll differentiate it from the Hunger Games because they are so close. It's literally like just there are so many movies and books written like that have this like battle to the death, pick this person and throw them in a ring and fight. That's what this is, but like the difference between Battle Royale and Hunger Games is that visceral impact that you need to have. So.
And it still haunts me. There's an image in Battle Royale that still haunts me to this day. It's right near the beginning. Remember, the movie starts off with the one Battle Royale wrapping up and finishing. And the winner is like this little 7-year-old girl. And she's sitting there, cute, adorable little Japanese girl holding a doll with blood down her face and this little smile. That image has never left me. And if you're going to do a North American version of this movie, you got to be able to capture that. And good luck. Good luck. If you can do it, I'm excited for you to try because that would be cool to see. All right, what's next?
Ripcord writes, what happened to the Project X sequel?
I think they just realized I got a kick out of the first Project X, to be honest. It wasn't as funny as I was hoping it would be, but it certainly had its moments. It just didn't do as well as I think they thought. Now, I don't know for certain that it's completely off the books. I don't know that it's completely off the books. Have you heard anything?
No, I haven't heard a thing about it.
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
I was thinking about another one of my favorite cars in movies is the Spinner from Blade Runner. There you go.
Or one of the any one of the cars from Mad Max.
Yeah, I know that's amazing
are
cars.
pretty
you
brutal
got Death Race 2000. Those cars, check those crazy zany cars out from the.
All
70s.
right, what's next?
Brooks Wilkins writes, what do you guys think of David Oyelowo as a potential future Bond?
Yes.
Yeah, I think him or Idris Elba.
Him, Idris Elba. Who's playing Superman? Why am I drawing? Henry Cavill, who was next in line to play Bond until they gave it to Daniel Craig. He was going to be Bond already. I think he would make a great Bond. There are a lot of guys out there, and David's name would certainly be. Look, he wouldn't be my first choice, but he's one of those names that you could pull out of this bucket, where all the names in this bucket, any name in that bucket is one I'll be happy with, and David is definitely one of the names in that bucket.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Andrew Wintermass writes, can you explain when the term sweaty/sweaties came about? I get what it means, but I'm just curious how it came about.
Behind the scenes, I like
kind of accidentally.
Yeah, you know what? I was just calling people sweaty nerds, and I just started my sweaties and started using the word sweaties, and it caught on.
It caught on.
So
what I loved is when we were going by Burbank 16, and everyone, all the super fans and they're like lined up, so we deemed it Sweaty Village.
Yeah,
that's right. Well, I think yesterday we were having lunch in a restaurant here in Burbank yesterday. One of the waiters dropped by and goes, movie talk. Yeah, he goes, I'm a sweaty. I watch the show every day. So the term is like,
and
really
it's an endearing thing. It means like what it means is like when you start talking about something that you really dig, what you really love, your brow starts to get sweaty. So you start to get you get more excited. You're like, I love that movie, this and that. You get really energized, and that's what it means. A sweaty nerd.
That's not what the origin for me personally was.
That's what my origin is. That's why I call it sweaty. If you're a sweaty nerd, you're getting all sweaty and drippy about the thing. So I just started calling people sweaty.
You know, where I first started hearing it kind of in those terms was talking about Comic-Con, because the phrase was always, you're always walking shoulder to shoulder with all these sweaty nerds, because it's true. I mean, Comic-Con is a cultural phenomenon. It's fantastic, and you've never smelt the stench of human body odor like you have on the floor of Comic-Con late Saturday, early Sunday.
It welcomes you when you walk in.
It goes, welcomes you when you arrive.
But that's why they're so sweaty.
Yes.
That's because they're like, they got the backpack. They're
ready.
I must get to the next toy. Like walking all quickly, working up that sweat, son. Sweaty nerd.
We are all proud sweaty nerds. All right, what's next?
All right, this is kind of an interesting one. Caden Larimer writes, is Hollywood as unoriginal as people claim it is?
Nope.
Thanks.
No, it isn't. You know who calls Hollywood unoriginal? People who have no originality. I have said this before. I will stand by. Even, do you know, to me, the most original thing of like award of the Oscars is not best original screenplay. It's best adapted screenplay. Do you know what kind of creativity you have to take a pre-existing property and do a translation on it? Because now you're bound. You're kind of bound. Now your creativity really has to kick in, because there's certain walls and restrictions you got to work within to still create and deliver a great product. So no, everybody says, oh, they did a Planet of the Apes, now they're doing another Planet of the Apes. That's lack of creativity. No, it's not, you idiot. That is not what just the first concept of what the movie should be. That's not where creativity lies. Creativity lies not in that 1% effort of coming up with your concept. It's in the 99% effort of taking that concept, fleshing it out, building it, putting it together, and then executing it to perfection and putting it up on the screen. That's where the creativity is. And so, I don't know, Schnepp, as a content creator yourself, how do you address that question?
I agree with what you said. I think the execution of the idea is 90% of the idea. Ideas are truly a dime a dozen, and it doesn't just have to be in Hollywood. You could be wherever you are, and you can come up with some really cool, unique ideas. And I guarantee you that if you thought of something, there's at the very least, 100 other people who thought of the same exact thing as you. Why? Because we're all part of this cultural melting pot of media and entertainment, and we're all influenced by things that we love. So we're taking a little bit of this flavor, a little bit of this flavor, and a little bit of that flavor, and then your own flavor that you just like a bunch of other people have that interest in those flavors, and you come up with certain ideas. Then it comes down to who can actually execute those ideas. So certain people I wrote this screenplay that's just like this screenplay, that's just like this screenplay. You get it to the next person, they're able to take that and execute it, i.e. sell it, get the money to make it, get the stars and the producers and the directors to, the studio behind it. It's this whole process. So there is no lack of creativity. It's an overabundance of creativity. So many people have ideas. So many people have stories. I have this story for this or that, or they have their favorite TV show. I've come up with 5 different stories for this TV show because I love this TV show so much. So people are really invested in the things that they love. So I think there's no lack of creativity. I think it's in fact quite the reverse.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily a lack of creativity. What people also realize too is when you're out there and when you constantly hear stories about remakes or sequels, and you go, oh, they're being unoriginal. There's no creativity there, because those are the majority of the things that you're hearing. Because movies, especially sequels, when they make money, there's going to be sequels. There's going to be, and other studios are competing with franchises. So right now, the comic book movie is huge. So then you hear a lot about DC and Marvel. So you think, oh, they're just doing comic book movies. That's it. But then you forget when you have a movie like, let's say, Edge of Tomorrow or Ex Machina, when not a lot of people really hear about them, or they're not doing it well. There's not a marketing push behind them. They're out there, and a lot of times, and we've said this many times, a lot of times you guys aren't seeing some of the original movies, so you think, oh, they're not being creative. It's just a matter of the marketing machine as well too. But you look at how many different things are constantly being putting out there, and look at some of your favorite actors. Look at some of your actors today. Go on IMDb and look at some of their projects they're working on. And some of them, you're like, what the hell is that? I never heard of it. Those are some of the smaller movies that they do, creative movies, original movies. They're out there, and it's a constant machine. There's so many different minds working on things all the time.
And here's a great example, too. Think of a movie like Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, wins 11 Academy Awards. Are you going to look at me in the face and say there's no creativity in Lord of the Rings, Return of the King? Oh, it was a book already. Oh, it was already an animated movie. Yes, those two things are true. Do you really want to look me in the face and say there's no creativity put into making Lord of the Rings, Return of the King? Give me a break. All right, what's next?
Sean Lallen writes, will we ever see a 4-hour movie ever again?
Nope. I mean, not an original first-run theatrical release film.
They'll split it into 2 movies.
Yeah, they'll split it into 2 movies. Right. Or what you might get is something like what happened with the aforementioned Lord of the Rings, is that they did a re-release later of the full director's cut, which a couple of them peaked over 4 hours. You might get that, but as far as a first run of the movie, I think exactly what Christian just said. You're probably going to get split into 2.
Hateful Eight is 3 hours and 2 minutes. So that's a 3 hour and 2 minute film.
Still a full hour.
I know,
short.
I know, but I'm just saying, I wouldn't say never. I would just say probably in the next 10 years you might get one.
I don't know. Tarantino tried to do it, and they made him split it into 2 movies with Kill Bill.
Kill Bill, yeah.
I'm just saying though, it's not impossible, but I don't see it happening either.
All right, let's take 2 more quick ones.
All right, Michael Guljar writes, me and my friend are huge movie-going fans, and we're thinking of starting a review page. How should we go about doing this?
Instead of us answering it here again, I will tell you about this. Over a year ago, I did a full 2-hour video on how to get started in online film punditry, YouTube, podcasts, or blogs. It's a full 2 hours. I give an awful lot of information in that. Wendy, if you can remember, let's put into the description of today's video a link to that video. So if you're watching this live, check back in about 15 minutes, look in the description of the video below, and you'll see a link to my video on getting started. It's like I said, there's a lot of information in there, both from a philosophical point of view to practical stuff like what kind of equipment should you use if you're going to do podcasts or videos, how do you do something on the cheap, how do you expand, all that kind of stuff. So all that is in that video. I will leave a link in the description below. All right, what's next? Last question of the day.
Sean Murphy writes, what's your guys' predictions on what will be announced next year?
What will be announced?
What will be announced? Like what big... I think finally next year, we've already heard rumors and rumblings, but I think we're going to finally hear it's all a go. The green light is given. Production is begun for a Star Blazers, or also known as Space Battleship Yamato. I think that's going to get announced next year, and I'm going to be jumping up and down for joy when it does. I freaking loved Star Blazers when I was growing up, so that to me is a big thing we're going to get announced next year.
Flash Gordon finally going to confirm it.
Yeah, because they've been talking about it.
Matthew Vaughn, they've been talking about how he's been rumored to do it. I think it's going to be confirmed.
I want that confirmation so bad, but I think they will finally confirm that they are shooting The Batman with Ben Affleck. I think that'll be announced probably a week or two before Batman v Superman actually drops, just to get that excitement really pumping. They're like, we're start shooting The Batman on whatever date they're going to announce. So that's definitely an announcement. And I think once Civil War drops, a little more flavor will be announced as far as what's going to be the Infinity Gauntlet 1 and 2. Like I think we'll get
post-credit stuff.
Yeah, I think it'll be a post-credit thing, and they'll also make a little like a story brief, like Infinity Gauntlet. It's about this.
I think we'll also be announcing. When we go Star Wars talk, I think we'll be announced. At least we'll get some information that Vader is going to be in Rogue One.
I got three other big potential ones. Number one. Inspired by the documentary The Death of Superman Lives What Happened, director Martin Scorsese is going to say, I want to pick up where Tim Burton left off. I will finish what he started. And because of this documentary that inspired me so much, I am going to make Superman Lives. I'm going to make Superman Lives, and I'm going to hire as a special consultant John Snepp to help me along the way.
It's just Martin Scorsese standing in front of a Beetlejuice head. I will finish what you started.
Awesome. Steven Spielberg is going to buy the rights to my book, The Pride, and he's going to make that into a feeture film. And I'm also going to predict, no pressure, Mark Ellis is going to get engaged in 2000 and... who am I kidding? No, he's not.
Hey, Mark Ellis was in The Force Awakens. I don't know if you guys saw.
Yeah,
He was like, I want my Raptors or whatever.
Solo.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make him say that.
Solo. Where's the haggis? Okay, yeah. Anyway, that will do it for us, guys, for this installment of Collider Movie Talk, the final one before Christmas break. Remember, we don't got a show Thursday or Friday. Tomorrow, though, Jedi Council is going to air on the channel, so come back and check for that. And we still will have our weekend mailbag show. So Saturday and Sunday will be weekend mailbag shows. I'm really excited because one of the shows this weekend is going to be the traditional movie questions, but one of the shows we're doing this weekend is just all behind the scenes questions, like what one of you asked a little bit earlier about the behind the scenes, how we make stuff happen, tips about YouTube, and all that kind of stuff. We're taking just all those questions in one of the mailbags, so I'm really excited about that. So don't forget, guys, lots of great films like Star Wars is playing over at our friends at AMC Theaters. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all of your theater showtime and, of course, your movie ticket information. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And, hey, while you're at it, make sure you bookmark Collider.com. Steve and his group of writers over there are doing a great job of keeping you up to date on everything in the world of entertainment. Bookmark Collider.com. I want to thank the guys sitting at the table with me for this last show before Christmas. Sitting on my left, Mr. John Schnepp. Merry Christmas, John. And where can people find you online?
You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, just at John Schnepp. Check out Collider Heroes. We got a special 2015 wrap-up coming out next week where we just talk about the movies of 2015, all the superhero films. And definitely check out my film, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. It's a documentary. You can rent it or buy it. Digital download available at tdoslwh.com. Get it over the holidays for your friends and check it out. Support an independent film.
Sitting over here on my right, Mr. Christian Harloff. Christian, Merry Christmas, and where can people find you?
Merry Christmas to you, too. Make sure that you guys follow me on Twitter, at Christian Harloff. Thank you for all the great Star Wars questions. Love them, as well as Instagram. And John was talking about Jedi Council. It's going to be a full, sweaty conversation between myself, John Schnepp, Ken Knapsack, and John Campia, where we're going to be talking. We're going to break down the entire movie. It's not just going to be a review. We've done that already. It's going to be a lot of kind of theories and speculation and emails from you guys. It's going to be a full-fledged conversation.
A lot of unanswered questions.
A lot of things that we,
episode 7, yeah.
So make sure if you've seen the movie, obviously, go and check that out. It'll be a nice Christmas Eve treat for you as well, and obviously share and let everyone know about Collider Jedi Council.
And, a little bit later today, come back and check because we have our definitive list, our list of Collider's top 20 most anticipated films of 2016. It's going to be myself and Ashley and Steve Weintraub. That video is going up a little bit later today. Keep your eyes open for that. And speaking of Ashley Mova, our lovely host today. Ashley, Merry Christmas, and where can people find you online?
Merry Christmas, John. You guys can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Ashley Mova. Happy Christmas Eve, guys.
Oh, yes, it is Christmas Eve squared right now.
Yeah.
And most of all, thank you to you guys. May you guys have a wonderful holiday season filled with family and friends and booze and a good time. See Star Wars 2 or 3 more times. Enjoy yourselves. You can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter, simply at John Campy. Once again, don't forget, come back a little bit today for our top 20 most anticipated films of 2016. Tomorrow for Jedi Council. Nothing going up on Friday, which is Christmas Day, of course. And Saturday and Sunday, those mailbag episodes. Make sure you tell everybody about that and come on back for that. And then Movie Talk will be back on Monday. So that'll do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for joining us for Collider Video, and until next time, bye-bye.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.